Actually, she could pick things up with her toes, and like ink pens and toothpicks, whatever. If she dropped something, she could pick it up with her toes. It was amazing. But it smells so good in here. Anyway, so I learned to take my shoes off and all that. And I remember taking first shower I took. They're economically correct over there, I guess you could say. It's pretty interesting because the first shower I took, you can add some pepper to this meat and to it all. Over there you see a guy who had the round pepper cans with the little handle on, and he would take them and shake it around. Anyway, so getting back, I turn on the hot and cold water, but it's just cold water. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? And so she wasn't home at the time. She was down at her cousin's. And so I go outside and I see the neighbor. And this neighbor lady, she's an elderly lady. And I asked her if her if her electric and hot water was working. And I asked her first, I said, you speak English? And she said, Scotia a little bit. So, so I asked her if her hot water had off. I said, I've got no hot water. And she started laughing, And she goes over to this box on the outside of the apartment. And it was just like turning on a gas grill. You push this knob in, turn it, and then you push the button to ignite it. And then you have instant hot water. I'm not joking. And it automatically, she told me, she says, if you turn off the hot water, it only goes for so long, If it feels that it's not being used anymore, and I guess it has some kind of gauge or whatever, it turns itself off. You don't have to turn it off, which is interesting. It's pretty cool. So, anyway, I go in and I'm taking my shower, and the toilet's here, shower's here, and there's a drain in the center. One of the things that nobody told me was to take the toilet paper out of the bathroom, because it was an all-in-one bathroom, toilet and shower. And so I'm taking a shower, and all of a sudden I feel water, and I'd rinsed my hair because I had shampooed what little hair I had. I looked down, I got water up around my ankles. I'm like, what the heck? So I turned off the water, and I go traipsing out, and I took a towel and I dried off, and I go back in and I'm watching, I'm like, how in the heck, what's stopped up in here? And then I looked, and the toilet paper had gotten wet from the shower and dripped off, and it had clogged up the drain. That is no joke. Well, that's how I learned. I mean, I made every mistake there was. Every single mistake. And then, back then I used to drink a bit. And I would come home from work, and I get home from work, and I grab myself a beer and walk outside. And I drank and I smoked back then. Yeah, I was a bad boy. So I grabbed my beer and cigarettes, and I'd go outside and I'd sit on the little balcony and everything. And this daggum monkey started coming over. And it was just like a little kid. I would raise the beer can, and its head would watch me. And I'd take a swallow, and I'd bring the beer can down, and it was watching my hand, just like a little kid. You know, and I was like, okay. So, anyway, I got up, I went and got another beer, came out. Now I'm drinking, and the monkey's looking at me like, what, you didn't get one for me? And I'm not joking. I'm not joking about this. So the monkey's looking like, what, you didn't get one from me? So I get down to the bottle, and I've got like a swallow or two left. And I'm really good with animals. I've always had dogs all my life and everything, and I like animals. So and I know you're not supposed to do this, and I handed the monkey the last two swallows, and the monkey drank it. So then the next time I go inside, I grab a beer, and I grab the monkey a beer. Now this is no joke. So then I just added the cabbage there. It's going to wilt a little bit if you want. And so anyway, that monkey became my drinking partner. And there was a little girl, she was 3 years old, and she would sneak up as soon as I get home and pull on my finger to get me to go somewhere. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere with a little kid. You know, that's just not right. You're in a foreign country, and you know, you don't want anything bad to go down. And I didn't know what she wanted. So I would just kind of look at her, and she didn't speak any English. And she only spoke off Okinawan, and she would just be rattling off, and I was looking at her, and I'm like, I had no clue what she was saying. And so, anyway, Ditska came home, and I said, what is she trying to get me to do? I mean, it's good that her mother wasn't sick downstairs or something like that, because I wasn't going to go anywhere with her. And and her mom waited a little while, so Ditska goes downstairs, and she comes back and she says, oh, her parents going to come up in a little while, and I'll introduce you to them. I'm like, okay, that'd be cool, you know. And so a little while goes by, and up comes, there's a knock at the door, and there's all three of them, the father, the mother, and the daughter, and the father was a JP, a Japanese police officer. I am not joking, not a bit. And I'm like, holy cow. And his name was Soshi. And the little girl's name was Nami-chan. I can't remember the mother's name, Nami or something. And so they asked the little girl what she was doing, and she wanted me to take her to the store to buy her a cookie. And and they says, you don't have to, you know, it's unless you just want to. Don't feel obligated and everything. And I was like, it's okay? And they're like, yeah. So And this is what's kind of funny about this story, because next day I come home, Nami-chan comes up, grabs my finger, and starts pulling me. So she's pulling my right finger, and we start walking out, and we're going down the stairs, and that dadgum monkey comes up, and he grabs my left hand. So I'm tracing through Kimville, Kinchokin, with a 3-year-old girl on my right hand, and a monkey that everyone thought was dangerous in my left hand. and I mean, they got a grapevine. You know, there was people, they were going, ah, ah, and they were running in, calling and everything, you know, and I guess they called the Japanese police and everything, and luckily, Soshi was, the JP that lived below me was on duty, and he came up and he saw that he saw what was going on, and he just laughed. You know, he told everyone it's okay, and everyone's like, that monkey's dangerous. And why has she got a Marine with her? They're dangerous. We weren't. Anyway, so now these are really fresh noodles. So anyway, it got to where I would go traipsing up to the little stores. They didn't have any supermarkets there. With a Nami-chan on my left hand, or on my right hand, and a monkey on my left hand. And everybody got used to it, and they got to where they would come up to the monkey, and I'd say, it's okay to pet it. And they were afraid of the monkey, and I'm like, no, the monkey won't bite. It's cool. And see if I can get this a little better for you. And anyway, they people in the town got to know me. Now, I know it's a little bit off speed here, but got a little bit of oyster sauce. Just a little bit. I don't usually use it. But yeah, that monkey got to know me really well and became my friend, and Nami-chan became my friend, and they are so advanced over there. The parents asked me if I would if I minded helping their 12-year-old daughter with math, and I'm like, sure, I'll do that. 12 years old, the girl was studying trigonometry. I was like, whoa. And so anyway, I thought that was pretty advanced for, and they study English as a second language. Most of them know English, you know, so now I'm going to do this just for all of you. I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. I'm not supposed to have sugar, but to make the sauce, what you will see if you go to Okinawa for them to make the sauce, they would take some soy sauce, don't have to have a whole lot, and sake, and what they all had was a little plastic squirt bottle with the sake in it. So nobody knew what the secret ingredients was. And like I said, I ended up in the kitchens all over the place. It's just a hobby of mine, kind of. And then I went to school after I got out of the Marine Corps. But anyway, the whole tour was pretty neat. But that is basically your sauce. If you want to, and you don't have to, trust me on this, but you can add a little bit of sugar. I added very little. I probably won't even taste it, but I'm not supposed to have sugar anyway. Get this coating on here. You don't have to add salt because you got salt in the soy sauce. And that's how I learned how to use chopsticks over there too. But you know, I got ready when it came time to come back to the United States. That was pretty amazing because Soshi and his wife and 2 daughters, they came up. And like I said, he was a Japanese police officer. And they came up and they bought me some shirts and everything. And I didn't want to leave, you know, literally. A lot of people, when they go somewhere, they can't wait to leave, and I wanted to stay. I did. And so I got to, you know, I had to go back and pack everything to get ready to come back to the States. And shut that off. And I may add maybe just a smidgen of vegetable oil. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm feeling everything tighten up in there. Now, like I said, you don't have to use beef. You can use pork. You can use shrimp. You'll never see them in Okinawa use sugar, but you can, I guess. I don't know. I've never seen them use it, and I did 2 tours over there. But anyway, we got to the airport, or the runway there, and we've got a different type of airplane waiting on us. I mean, it's a 747. I'm going to throw the cut green onions in there now, because like I say, it's just basically like a garnish. Basically like a garnish. Anyway, crash. Anyway, so I forgot the name of the airline. We got in there, and all the little vents were different colors. Some were the same, but most of them were a different color. And I'm looking at this airplane, and even the panels on the inside. It was a 747, but I'm looking at the airplane, and you know, even the panels on the inside, some of them were different. And so we got ready to take off. This is almost done. I'm dishing it. We got ready to take off, and we're booking down the runway. And you can add as much noodles or as little noodles as you wish. Anyway, we got ready to take off, and we're booking down the runway. And I'm looking up, and you got the fuselage like this. And we're going up in the air, and the whole thing's doing like this, and I'm like, I've never seen an airplane do that. You know, and I'm hoping that the airplane just sticks together. I'm serious, you know. And so anyway, we're cruising around. Now you've got a battalion of Marines on this airplane. One of the toilets worked. I'm not joking. Only one. Now, if you can imagine that, that's just crazy. But then we find out that we were not going to be landing in Lindbergh Field. We were going to be landing at Miramar, Top Gun, where they have Top Gun. And this is another thing, that this is the dried seaweed. And you don't have to use this. If you don't want to. It's up to you. Now the Marines, what they used to do was this. You'd get some on your way back to the barracks, and throw Texas Pete hot sauce on it. You know, they always had Texas Pete hot sauce. But anyway, so we landed at Miramar, and that's when we got into the new barracks and everything. But that was basically, oh, before we left Okinawa, we had a kid whose first name was Bill, and I'm not going to say his last name. But his real first name was Bill, not William, but Bill. And one of the buses, we're waiting, you know, we're all counted out how many people will fit on a bus. And this was at Camp Hansen. And one of the buses broke down. So we knew that one of the buses would have to go down there turn around, down to Katina and turn around and come back. And anyway, we're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And all of a sudden, here's a battalion commander with 2 MPs and a Mammasan from a bar. And this young man, who was only a private, decided he was going to buy his platoon drinks the night before they left. And so battalion commander is yelling for William in his last name. Of course, nobody's answering. You know, he was still with us there at Camp Hansen, and he just wasn't answering because his real name was Bill. So anyway, we waited and we waited, and all of a sudden the Mammasan picked him out, and so he didn't get to come back with us. And then when about 18 months later, we went back again for another rotation, and I went into this bar, and there's Bill. And I says, "What happened to you?" And he says, "Man," he says, "they discharged me and told me I had to pay off the Mammasan because there's no way he was going to pay it off, there. And I guess there's something that they will send you back to your first duty station or whatever when you are your hometown whenever you get through with your tour and stuff." So he since they discharged him and everything, they gave him a choice after he paid her off if he wanted to stay in Okinawa or go back to the United States. And he decided to stay in Okinawa. And he was running that bar, even though, but he was speaking a little bit of Okinawan language. And, I think all of us had to learn a little bit of it. But anyway, that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. And I did and I did one real quick. I did, like I said, 2 tours. The second tour, when I flew over there, now one of the things that's kind of, probably shouldn't mix this with a food show, but I have to. One of the things they told us is if you go out in town, you're going to see people from there Okinawans using the bathroom on the side of the road. And they said, "Don't do that. You will go to jail." And yes, we did. We saw people using the bathroom on the side of the road. And so anyway, they're called benjo ditches. And that's where their sewage runs. It runs out on either side of the road. But it's covered with like a grate. So no matter what you do, you smell this. It's more like a, how do I describe it? It's not a bad smell. It's more like a moldy smell, I would call it. And you don't really realize it while you're there. And when we went up to Northern Training Area and we were doing a compass course, this was kind of funny. I was stopped by this creek, and I was filling up my canteens because I'd run out of water. It was a long compass course, and NTA, Northern Training Area, and I see all these workers up on this bridge, and they're whistling and yelling at me, and they've got little white hats on and blue shirts and white boots on, and I'm filling up my canteen, and I put my the pills that they give you that cleans the water. You know, you put a couple of these pills in there, you know, and then screw the top of your canteen on, you know, loosely, and you wait a couple of minutes, and you give it a couple of shakes, and you wait a couple of minutes, and give it a couple more shakes, and then you wait however long, and you drink it, and it tastes like chlorine, basically. You know, it tastes like pool water. But anyway, they're yelling at me, and they're watching me, and and then they see me take a drink, and they're waving their hands, flailing their hands like, no, 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 and they came running down, and they gave me a some fresh water, and they told me that that creek that I had filled up with, that the benjo ditches had emptied into the creek. Well, uh, now they've cleaned all that up. There's no benjo ditches. They've even got koi in the benjo ditches beside the roads and everything. They've got signs where it shows, you know how you see the no smoking sign with the circle with a slash through it and stuff. They got signs showing uh, no going to the bathroom on the side of the roads, and and when I got there the first time, you're talking about 300 bars on 3 city blocks. That's what it was, and you could either become a physical fitness freak and go to the gym all the time, or you could go out in town and drink. Or in my case, I would, since I found a girlfriend, I would go out and stay at the apartment and everything, and I would cook outside and so forth. And her father owned the apartments. I don't know if I said that. So there was no rent to be paid, and that was pretty cool. Um, but anyway, a lot of this was funny. All of it was, and I've got those memories stuck in my head. And the second tour, I went over there to fly. You know, we flew over there, and we didn't leave from San Diego. I think we left from Miramar at that time, and and we still, like I say, I ended up landing in Alaska, not Hawaii. I think they were afraid I'd go UA or something in Hawaii, but we landed in Okinawa. And as soon as they opened the doors of the airplane, I smelled it. This was before they had stopped having benjo ditches and stuff like that. Um, and they actually now they've actually closed down a whole lot of those bars, um, from what I can see, and they've put like a park in the middle to where, you know, a bunch of the bars used to be. But there's still some of the bars left there, but they've really cleaned it up. It's not as nasty as it used to be. And when I was over there, it was another thing is I used to hang out if I wanted to drink, I'd hang out at Club 3 Star, and Mammasan, which is Mrs. Rich, and her husband. It's kind of funny because I'm in there drinking one night, and this bald Okinawan guy, he was Papasan, he comes walking out, and he sits down beside me, and he's laughing and all cheery, and he slaps me on the top of my head, hard, too. And I looked at him like, who the heck's this guy think he is? So what I do? I slapped him right in the head, too. And it was dead silence in the bar instantly. And the mama son was sitting there, and her son, Junko, he was sitting there, and it was dead silence. And all of a sudden, the papa son started laughing and gave me this hug. And he liked me because everybody else was too chicken to do that, I guess. And anyway, if I got off work, you know, on time, and if I made it to the bar, they showed me how to get in through the back way, which was next to the girls' bathroom. It was one door down, and through this little tiny alleyway, and I would go in, and they showed me where they lived, and all I had to do was yell as I'm coming through that I'm there, and and I'd eat dinner with them. You know, I'd take my shoes off and everything, and you know, the place during World War II was actually a house of ill repute, I think I said that right. Ill repute. Anyway, upstairs, there were some rooms where the girls used to live or sleep, but they had the Mammasan when she bought Mammasan and Papasan when they bought this place, they made it they got new mattresses and pillows and everything else, and painted the rooms and everything. And so if you were over there and you got a little bit too drunk or whatever, you could sleep up there. Or if they had family that drove in from from wherever, they could sleep up there. And it was pretty nice. And then I remember going down to Club Utopia one night, and because that was on the right hand side before I went down to these desk stairs. That's what I called them. I mean, they were like almost straight up and down. And the Utopia was a bar on the right hand side, and I decided I'd walk in there just to see what was going on because I was, someone had opened the door and I saw all kinds of people in there. I walked in and I'm like, huh? The Mama San's in there. The one from the 3 star. Anyway, what happened was is they were twins, and but the one at Utopia was completely the opposite of the one at 3 star. 3 star is super nice, and the one at Utopia, she was all business and no fun at all. But yeah, the Mama San at 3 star. One day, Ditska says, "Hey, we're gonna drive down," because I wanted to go down to Cadena and get some beer because American beer over there, it was like $4 or $5 for a Budweiser. I'm serious. And you could drink Orion and Sapporo for like $1. So but Budweiser was imported, and so I wanted to go down to, I was telling Ditska, I said, let's take a bus and let's go down to Cadena and go to the whatever they call it, class 5, class 6 store, because I want to buy some beer. And she says, well, let's just take Mama San's car. And I'm like, huh? And Mama San had this black Mercedes. And incidentally, most of the bar owners were in the Japanese mafia. And so you didn't want to really tick them off. And I was scared to death. But anyway, they drive on the wrong side of the road over there. And but I did it anyway. I says, okay. And the Mama San, we drove down there, and it was just Ditska and me in the car. And we get down there, and you get to Cadena, and you have to reverse lanes and go back on the other side, and the American side. How we drive in the United States. And so we go into the store, and I says, let's buy Mama San some alcohol too. And so we buy her some alcohol, and we buy, I think it was Heineken or something. And so we start going. I bought some Jack Daniels too. And when we got back up, uh, I bought 2 bottles of Jack Daniels. We got back to Kincho Kin, and we gave the Mama San the Heineken, just as a gift for using her car. And so it wasn't like we were black marketing or anything. But anyway, so we got up there, and it was this guy and the Mama San are talking. Next thing I know, she's taking a bottle of Jack Daniels from me, and she says, "When you come into the bar, it'll be behind the counter, so that way you don't have to pay for a drink or anything." And people used to see me drinking. How are you not having to pay? But yeah, it was an adventure. Okay, I'm gonna taste this now. I think I've talked way too much. And I also learned don't leave your uh, chopsticks sticking up. That's a sign of death, or you're talking to dead people if you do that. Mm-mm. Oh yeah. It's delicious. Try some of these noodles. That's just how I remembered it too. Now, of course, the cabbage shrunk a little bit, but that's expected. Okay, I hope y'all enjoyed this and you learned something. And be safe. Stay warm if it's cold. If you're in a place that's hot, enjoy it. And watch out for that stupid virus. And don't forget, smash that subscribe and hit that like, because I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.